Hello there. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can run Malistaire in Dragonspire the fastest and easiest way. And the reason I'm making this sort of guide through or walkthrough, say it as you will, is because this dungeon specifically has, I think, the best gear you can get on level 50. And I think it's a great dungeon to farm. They've made this dungeon very easy. Nowadays, it's much easier than it used to be. And the gear that you get from this dungeon is incredible. For 50 level at least, it can easily get you through Celestia and Wintertusk if you were going to run Wintertusk. And you can just go straight through Waterworks with this gear. You're going to be just fine. You're going to have great stat. You're going to have piercing, a little bit of resist. You're going to have tons of damage for your class, at least respectively. Even Ice, which is the lowest base damage school in the game, the Malistaire gear gives you some significant damage boost. You know, if you don't want to farm this, you can just skip that and just go straight for Waterworks gear. But in my case, I like to run this dungeon because it's very easy. It takes you about 10 minutes if you're on a storm with high damage. And you can farm gear for other classes. You can move them to your shared bag. Very easy to do so. Okay, so in this first fight, you're gonna have to kill those 4 fire guys, those 4 fire mobs. Now, in this storm character, it's level 66. I'm on 120 damage, so everything's basically gonna be one shot. Very rarely I get a weakness, and I don't one shot if I don't crit. And that might not be the case for you. You might not have damage, but you might get one piece of gear that will help you gain more damage, and you can run this easily later on. So as soon as you end the first fight, you're just gonna rush through the myth mobs, and you're just gonna head straight to the elevator to your left. Then the lift is gonna take you up. You're gonna exit the lift, and as soon as you exit the lift, you're just gonna place a mark right on the bridge looking towards that way, and then you're just gonna go to your left. But be careful here. That's rank 9 boss Gurtok. We need to go that way, but we are going to avoid him, and by doing so, we're just gonna go right to the edge of this platform. You're literally gonna be walking onto the wall, but be careful. Try not to be too slow over there because you can get pulled inside the fight. So try to be as careful and as fast as possible. Then you're gonna enter Dragon's Maw, and you're gonna go straight through. Now, the same tactic we used with Gortak, you're gonna do the same thing here. You're gonna have no problem. These guys almost never pull you in fight, so you're gonna be okay. You're gonna do the same thing over here. You're gonna pass these guys as well. Now, you can fight all these mobs if you want to, but I don't think they drop anything significant. I don't think it's worth the time or effort. So you're just gonna head out this way. There are some mana orbs and some health orbs here, so that's good for refilling and replenishing your HP and mana. So you use this crystal right here, and then you just teleport back to the mark we left. You're just gonna walk straight through. This is like very easy going, very fast. If you learn how to optimize your movement, especially if you're a storm. Again, like I said, I'm on very high damage here in this character, and you have some critical. Like you can slot in a critical jewel if you have another player that's higher level than, I don't know, you might have a 90 level life wizard, and you can just have a storm critical jewel. You can probably slot it in and you'll have critical, or you can just buy a 50 level gear. I don't know, headpiece or something, and that will give you critical to your school, and you can just hit criticals. If you're lucky, you might one-shot most of the fights. If not, you might need to, I don't know, 2-turn your fights. I'd recommend you run this on a storm because you can hit Tempest anytime, and you can pretty much 1 round, 2 round these sort of fights. The fastest run I've done is like 8 minutes and something. You might have a maxed out level wizard. This is going to be very easy for you as well. You're going to run this really, really fast. Now, the only bad part about this dungeon is that this gear that you can get can also be sold in the auction house, in the bazaar. But that is the cheap, sort of bad gear. The good gear is the gear that you cannot auction, the one that you cannot sell at the bazaar. That is ideally what you like to get. But, either way, like I've run this dungeon dozens of times, and I haven't really had every set for every class and every wizard that I have. However, for some schools, the ones you get here, they're called spell swords, and they're absolutely amazing. They're, I believe, some of the best ones you can get for up to like 100 level, especially for some schools like fire, like death. I don't quite remember the stats in every single school, but I think balance is okay. I think myth, fire, death, even storm, they're pretty good. So if you're not gonna run for the gear, you can at least run for the wands. I think it's absolutely worth it. It's gonna take you maybe, I don't know, 5 runs, 10, worst case scenario, but I think it's worth it considering how easy of a run it is. If you have a friend that's higher level than you and has high damage, you know, they can one turn all these fights. You're just gonna rush through. You're just gonna scour through the entire dungeon. It's very easy. Nowadays, at least. And so, yeah, that's it. You kill Malistaire. If you're past Celestia, you're not gonna get spell elements from this fight, but you are most definitely going to get drops. Rarely so, you get some pretty cool jewels as well. But I think this dungeon is definitely worth it for the wands, because I had this thing where I was stuck with my 90 level myth wizard on a sky iron hasta, and that was like horrible to look at, and I just couldn't stand that thing. And when I discovered, you know, I can get some pretty cool wands with piercing and damage and some traps on my skull from Malistaire, I started running this, and it was actually pretty fun. And now my myth has better stats, and he has a cool looking wand, and no longer that puny tiny little spear that you get from Zeus. So yeah, so that's it. I didn't want to stretch this too far. This run was, I intentionally put the most perfect run possible for you to see how it pretty much goes, but it's not gonna be perfect for you guys. It's not gonna be perfect always. You know, there are gonna be deviations. So yeah, that's it. I hope it helped. I hope you can learn how to run Malistaire now, and thank you all guys for watching.